It's time for Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. And now your host, Bryan Nugen, estate planning and elder law attorney.
Good morning, and welcome to Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. I'm attorney Bryan Nugen, founder of Nugen Law, and your host for our program. The purpose of our show is to have weekly, in-depth conversations about matters relevant to folks as they walk down the path of successful aging. Our listeners will learn what it is to age with dignity and how best to protect their money. I've been practicing law for 3 decades. I'm licensed to practice in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida, and actively represent clients in all 4 states. My practice, the attorneys, and our interdisciplinary team of professionals who practice with me concentrate on working with clients in estate planning and elder law and areas related to them, such as estate and trust administration, guardianships, and planning for those with special needs. I'd like to mention that if you care to meet with any of the team members at Nugen Law at either our Auburn or Fort Wayne offices, please call us at 260-925-3738. That's 260-925-3738. Or you can send us a message at help@nugenlaw.com, help@nugenlaw.com, or visit us at our website, www.nugenlaw.com. Today's guest is Jesslyn Smith, an attorney with Nugen Law. Jesslyn is licensed to practice law in Indiana, has been doing so in excess of a decade, currently serving as president of Indiana's chapter of the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. Welcome, Jesslyn. Great having you on.
Thanks, Bryan. I'm glad to be here.
Nice. Love it. Today's topic is definitely in your lane, Jesslyn. As you know, 7 out of 10 people will need long-term care in their lifetime. Long-term care is necessitated when someone needs help with activities of daily living like eating, bathing, dressing, using the bathroom, etc. My experience has been that a lot of our clients are motivated to contact us for help when they see a loved one or a friend of the family has lost their money, their life savings after entering a nursing home or a memory care unit. And they don't want the same thing to happen to them or to their parents. Have you seen the same experience with your folks, Jesslyn?
I have. Clients will come in and say, I had a cousin or I had an uncle that lost everything. They spent it all at the nursing home, and I'm scared that's going to happen to me. Right.
Literally, they sold the family farm.
Yep.
Yeah. It breaks my heart when I am speaking, like an event like this or a presentation, or I have folks in the office and they'll say, I wish I would have talked to you 2 years ago. I wish I would have spoken to you when we lost the farm, we sold the lake cottage, we went through all of my grandma's reserves, mom's money. And so, Jesslyn, if an individual's care is being paid for privately, or it's being paid for through long-term care insurance, or it's being paid for through Medicaid or the VA, Veterans Administration, do you see any change in the type of care or the quality of care that they're receiving, despite the payer source?
No, not at all. They're going to get the same amount of care no matter what their payer source is. You can walk into any nursing home in town here, and you would not be able to point out which ones were receiving Medicaid, which ones were using long-term care insurance. You know, that's just not the case.
No. So when we're talking about asset preservation, we're talking about protecting that family farm. We're talking about protecting that 401k, now an IRA that you earned after working so many years at the plant. We're not concerned about, even though we're protecting the assets, we're sheltering those, we're still able to provide a means of you paying for your care. As a client said to me this week, legally? Yes, legally, we are going to protect your assets. You're still going to get the same level of care that you would. It's the same meal that's delivered to you. You may be in a room and your roommate is paying privately and your care is being paid for through Medicaid. The same attendant brings the same meal into both individuals in that room. The same nurse sees both individuals in that room. It's the same room. Nothing has changed. The only difference is One you're writing a check for on a monthly basis, and the other, a program like a Medicaid, would be paying for your stay there, but same level of care.
Yeah, funny thing, clients will come in, and I love it when they'll say, I need to hide my money.
Yeah.
And it's not that we're hiding it.
No.
You know, we disclose it. You know, you mentioned the legally.
Mm-hmm.
We use the rules and the laws in place in order to accomplish that asset protection.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I use an analogy with my clients. When you're hiring someone to prepare your tax return, right? If it's a CPA or a tax preparer and they're doing your tax return, do you say to them, I don't want you to take any deductions for me. It's okay if I pay more tax than I need to pay. Heck no. You're saying to them, use the tools at your disposal. I'm hiring you as somebody that's knowledgeable in this field. Please allow me to avoid paying tax if I can avoid it. And in this instance, it's the same. And so extending that analogy, you aren't saying to your CPA, don't tell the government what I make. Don't tell the government what I have. All that is disclosed. It's just if there are processes that CPA can take, that tax preparer can take to allow you to avoid paying some tax, of course you're going to seize that. So I see that as the same thing that we do as elder law attorneys in protecting our clients' money and securing benefits for them to pay for their care. We're using every tool at our disposal that we can to benefit our client. And that's what they're coming in to see us about.
Yep.
So if we're looking at protecting money, are we talking about protecting money only if you have a nursing home stay or only if you have a memory care unit stay? Are there other times when we might be looking to get benefits to pay for care outside of that traditional institutional setting?
Absolutely. Medicaid actually offers a Medicaid waiver program.
It's changing right now.
It is in the process of changing. But the Medicaid waiver program allows for you to access benefits to have services coming into your home, or maybe even less restrictive care such as assisted living facilities that are authorized and approved under the Medicaid waiver program. And so it's not always that you're going to a nursing home or a memory care unit. We can look to see how can we keep you at home longer, which is usually what most people's goal is. They want to be at home. They want to stay there as long as they can. I don't have clients coming in chomping at the bit to go to the nursing home. They want to know, how can I stay at home longer? And, the state has recognized that it can be cheaper to provide care in the home instead of in the nursing home. And so if we can help supplement getting some care and hours in the home coming in to take care of them, it does help the state, because it doesn't cost as much as the nursing home.
Sure. And it isn't when we're looking at that care in the home, it isn't necessarily 24-hour-a-day care people are starting with. It could be 2 hours, 3 days a week. It could be, 4 hours, 5 days a week. It's just enough care so that you can maintain your dignity, right? That you can be in an environment which is comfortable for you, which is appropriate for you, and we can keep you there longer. I think we're all creatures of habit. We like being in our own bed at night. We like being in our own living room, and we want to be able to accomplish that for our clients with the planning that we do. So when's the best time to start thinking about how to protect one's money from the cost of care as you age? I always think about 5 years or more. I want to see my client, if at all possible, before they need the care. Why is the 5 years relevant, Jesslyn?
Well, the 5 years is relevant because if you do need care and you are seeking assistance to help pay for that care, Medicaid has a 5-year look back. And so if you've transferred assets within the last 5 years, from the time that you file that Medicaid application, it could make you ineligible to receive services. So we want to have a window of about 5 years in order to clear that and know that we don't that we're not transferring assets within that 5-year window.
So if I could summarize, if you're transferring assets, giving assets away, we should talk about that as well, that it creates a penalty. So Medicaid is going to look back 5 years. So within the last 60 months, what have you given away? And there's a formula that they use based upon how much you've given away, and then a then current divisor, which changes every year. But that's determining how long it is before that you'll have to privately pay before Medicaid would be able to pay for you. And I think it's important for us to point out as well, that penalty period is typically, had you not given things away, had you used your own money, you would have actually paid less than by giving it away and thinking you were trying to save something. Giving money away when we know that care is impending, when we know that we are aging, is a very poor approach to trying to save your assets.
Yes.
That's always makes me nervous when a client has said, "Oh, I've been giving my children money," or this is my method of saving funds. Not a good approach. So so if we have the 5 years before the individual needs care, what types of instruments are we talking to them about in order to protect those assets? Should they have an out-of-home placement? Should they need care in the home as they age? Should they live in an assisted living facility? What type of instrument are you talking to your clients about that they have in place for that in advance of those 5 years?
Yes, so we look at what's called Medicaid Asset Protection Trust or an irrevocable trust in order to protect those assets and getting those assets then out of your name.
So when we talk about a trust, I think it's important to know that trust is a huge category. And I have had clients say to me, "I have a trust, so I know my assets are protected if I go to the nursing home." Well, maybe that's the case. Maybe it isn't the case. There are any number of different types of trusts. So I think of trust as a giant umbrella category. If I take that and slice that in half of the trusts are revocable, half of the trusts are irrevocable. And then of those trusts that are revocable, there are any number, dozens and dozens of types of revocable trusts and any number of different types of irrevocable trusts. What we're talking about today, Jesslyn, is a very specific type of an asset protection trust that not only protects assets during your lifetime, it also enables you to receive those different types of public benefits if they're appropriate for you, so that we shouldn't have the notion that because I signed a trust 20 years ago that and I heard I need a trust to protect assets, should I go to a nursing home? That's the right trust to use. So what are you looking for in those asset protection trusts to make sure that they are appropriate and are relevant for you to be able to get your client on a program like Medicaid?
So we look at the key to making it a valid asset protection trust is that we have to have a trustee that is other than yourself,
right,
that is what I like to call the key holder to this treasure chest where we're going to protect the assets in. And so the trustee is going to be the one holding that key and in charge of making sure those assets stay protected in that trust.
Yeah, I think that is probably when I'm speaking with clients about using these asset protection trusts, one of the things that they do need to recognize is if they have access to it, if they hold that key to open the treasure chest and get to the money, that it won't work.
Right.
It needs to. You have to give up some level of control, and so it's important that you have someone or someones in your life that you can rely on and you can trust, and that they will not take advantage of that position in which you've entrusted them with, that key holder position. It's important to have that. And in some of my meetings, I'll have the discussion with the clients, explaining to them what that asset protection trust is, how it works. And unfortunately, they don't have that trusted person in their life to give the key to. And then we have to really seriously think, is there someone other than a child, other than a sibling that we can use? My college roommate is very trustworthy. I have other professional friends that I would trust with those, to hold the key to that trust. Who is it that you have? And we may need to explore that. So I'm gathering then, Jesslyn, that if those assets are in that trust, that treasure chest, and it's locked up for a period of 5 years or more, then they would be in a position to apply for benefits and secure payment for their care.
Correct. And so once the key holder once we place the assets into that treasure chest or into the trust and the key holder locks it up for that 5 years, we're not continuing to put money in to that trust, because each time you add money to that trust, it's 5 years then from that last time you put money into the trust, before you would have the ability to apply for Medicaid without any consequence.
So let's talk about, we thought we had the 5 years. We don't have the 5 years. We didn't anticipate our health declining. We didn't anticipate having that serious car accident. Something negative happened. We don't have the 5 years. Is it too late then? We didn't get the 5 years in. It's too late. There's nothing else that can be done.
No. So Medicaid does allow for assets to be returned to an individual to eliminate a penalty period that has been created. And so the trust does allow for that key holder to unlock that treasure chest, and to distribute the assets in that trust to what is called a lifetime beneficiary. And then that lifetime beneficiary can return the funds to the individual if there was an event that happened. And so then it undoes that penalty that was created.
It's curing the gift.
Yes, curing the gift.
Exactly right. And so let's talk about the individual that didn't have that asset protection trust in place. They're going to live. It's the Peter Pan syndrome, right? I'm going to live forever. I'm going to stay young forever. I'm never going to need help. I'm never going to leave my home. Nobody's ever going to move me to a nursing home. I'm never going to have dementia. I'm never going to need help in the home. I'm never going to need help taking a bath. And circumstances change. So they didn't have that trust in place. Is it too late for us to protect assets?
No, it is never too late. With proper planning and with the proper techniques, we can still protect, at minimum, usually about 50% of what you have. And then depending on what your income is and what you have to help pay towards that care may drive how much more we can protect. It also depends on, that level of care you're receiving. If you're receiving care in the home and the cost of care is not as much, we can usually also protect more in those situations, because you're not tapping into your principal or needing a lot to pay towards that care. So we can try to protect more than at that time.
And this may strike people as confusing, but the reality is, if I have a married couple, I normally can protect more assets than if I have a single individual. And frankly, if I have a married couple, I normally can protect everything.
That's correct.
So if I'm a single individual, I like to set the bar low and then hopefully exceed that, 50% or more. Sometimes it's significantly more. Sometimes it's less. It just depends upon two factors, really: the cost of care for the individual, and then their monthly income. So when we say 50% or more, that's true if you have an average cost of care at a nursing home. However, let's say that an individual is on a ventilator and their cost of care, instead of being $8, $9, $10, $12 a month, it's $23,000, $24,000, $25,000 a month. All of a sudden, it becomes more challenging to protect more money. It doesn't mean we can't, but those numbers, when Jesslyn and I are talking about the 50% or the 100%, it really is fact specific for that client. One of the things that people talk about is, how is it that I can protect that money? What techniques can you use to protect the money? And it's unique to every individual. And it is not something to be stepped into lightly. I always get nervous when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm going to be doing this on my own." I've been on the internet and I've read how that I go through this process. What would you say to someone that says to you, "Oh, I've read online how to go through this process. I'm very familiar with it because my neighbor has told me what they did with their mother." What would your reaction to that conversation be?
I usually tell the client when they say that, it's very situational based, and what may work for one individual may not work for you, and there may be some basic concepts that you've read about, but your specific situation may need something that wasn't talked about, or there may be another technique or tool we can use to maybe even protect more for you than maybe what you've read. And so I really try to point out to them that it's situational, and every situation is different. Even though the basic concepts are the same, we design that plan for you based on your specific situation. Sure.
So to our listeners, to remind you, if you care to meet with any of the team members at Nugen Law at either our Fort Wayne or Auburn offices, please give us a call at 260-925-3738 or send a message to us at help@nugenlaw.com, help@nugenlaw.com, or visit our website, www.nugenlaw.com. I think that it's important for folks to understand that Medicaid is a federal program. It's a federal national program. However, every state interprets or determines how they're going to use their Medicaid dollars differently. So if I'm a resident of Indiana or I'm a resident of Ohio, those techniques and approaches may be very different for me, and things to guard against in each state may be very different. So when someone is reading online an article, we don't know if that article is written state-specific to where they're living. We don't know if they're reading something out of California, which has a very different Medicaid process, Medi-Cal. It's different than every other state. We don't know what they're reading. So to your point, Jesslyn, there are some overarching themes that are true to every state that has Medicaid money to dole out, but it's interpreted differently in each state, and there are different rules and guidelines. So how often is it that you find yourself, Jesslyn, going to continuing legal education courses or seminars to keep abreast of what's happening in your world?
I think it's a duty of mine as a practitioner to attend as many as I really can, because if I'm not staying up on those rules and the laws and things like that for here for Indiana, how can I properly advise my clients? So I try to participate in, as many as I really can. And I even like to be a speaker at those events, teaching other attorneys, other paralegals, other professionals about these things. I take pride in doing that because I really feel part of my job, too, is educating folks. And I take that serious,
Sure.
Yeah.
So you, those speaking engagements, do you even know how many you've done?
No.
No, I know.
I've
Me
lost
either.
count.
But it is, I do respect what you're saying. It's important to educate those around you. It's important to stay abreast of the changes in the laws related to these issues. This is the life savings of our clients. They've worked a lifetime. When I think about farmers in our area, this is farm ground that was great-grandfathers, grandfathers, fathers, now mine. I don't want to lose that farm. How is it that I protect it? The lake cottage that's been the family for a couple of generations. It's a legacy property. And how do I protect that so that I'm preserving it for the next generation? And I take my responsibility as an attorney, as an elder law attorney, very seriously. I want to stay abreast of what's out there, what's happening, and so that I can give them the best advice and can have in my tool belt the most appropriate means of them being able to protect their assets. And what does work for your neighbor may or may not work for you. And so, again, as I always say to my clients, have an open mind when you come in and speak to Jesslyn. Have an open mind when you come in and speak to me, because we may be talking about something you never thought about, you never considered, but for you, it would be most appropriate. It may not have worked for your neighbor, or rather, it may have worked for your neighbor. It doesn't work for you. You read something online. It may be appropriate, may not be appropriate. I think a mistake that happens is people get in that Medicaid process. Maybe they've applied for Medicaid prematurely. Maybe they've tried to shift some things around without getting appropriate advice. And now they're coming to us because they're hitting a stumbling block. They can't get those services they were wanting. They've been denied Medicaid, and now we have to try and unravel that. So I encourage folks to see an attorney like Jesslyn at Nugen Law or myself earlier rather than later, so that we can help and hopefully avoid some of those situations. Have you seen those experiences in the past, or had those experiences in the past?
Absolutely. The saddest ones are always when they come in and say, oh, I tried to file for Medicaid, I got denied, so I thought I had to spend all my money down at the nursing home, and that I couldn't be eligible until it was all gone.
And I have also had clients come to me say the nursing home is applying for Medicaid for me. I think it's true. If you have very limited resources, no assets or close to no assets, if you have a modest income, in those instances, a simple application for Medicaid may be appropriate. But those aren't our clients. Our clients are folks that have resources, that have assets that they want to protect. And a nursing home, with all due respect, their team isn't there looking to protect assets on your behalf. They're well-intentioned, wanting you to get on Medicaid, but if they aren't aware of the cadre of resources, tools that they can have for asset protection, they're not doing their resident a favor. They're not doing the person they're applying for a favor.
Right, absolutely. When there are assets involved, it's best if they, say you should go see someone, go talk to someone and find out what you can do, because they are not learning about the rules or the laws that are associated with the Medicaid program and what it takes to, protect those assets. So yeah, I think it's best if there are any type of assets, whether it be like a house and things like that, how to protect that, they should really refer them to see a professional.
And full disclosure, we have referrals from nursing homes when they have residents that are there and they're concerned about losing all of their money. We regularly have nursing homes that are reaching out to us and say, hey, we have a resident, we'd like you to speak with them, or giving our name, our contact information to their residents so that they can reach out to us for some assistance. So I think that we really are working hand in hand with the nursing home. And what folks need to realize too is that if their stay at the nursing home is being paid for by Medicaid, Medicaid, the nursing home is not going to be giving you substandard care. In Indiana, on average, around 65% of the residents in nursing homes have their stay paid for by Medicaid. It's not unusual whatsoever. That's part of their business plan. And we can protect your assets. We can do it in advance, preferably in advance, 5 years or more. But if we don't have those 5 years, it's never too late. We also can engage in something I call crisis planning, where you're going into the nursing home tomorrow. You've been in the nursing home for 6 months. It's not too late. We still can protect assets. Let us help you out. So to our listeners, if you care to meet with any of our team members at Nugen Law, at either our Fort Wayne or Auburn offices, please give us a call at 260-925-3738, 925-3738. Send us an email at help@nugenlaw.com, nugenlaw.com. Visit our website, nugenlaw.com. So, Jesslyn, thank you for joining me and our listeners today. You've provided some invaluable insight. I sincerely appreciate your time. I look forward to next weekend, Saturday at 9 a.m., for protecting your dignity, protecting your money with Nugen Law here on WOWO. Take care and enjoy your weekend, everyone.
You've been listening to Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. For more information, log on to nugenlaw.com or email help@nugenlaw.com. Nothing stated in today's program should be considered as legal advice, should not be considered as having created an attorney-client relationship between show host and guests and any listener. Nugen Law is not liable for anything that happens as a result of a listener relying on provided information as legal advice. The content is for informational purposes only.